Let me introduce to you our guest speaker for tonight. He is an IT community advocate with more than 15 years of experience as Technology Service Engagement Manager, and he is also the Board of Director of PhilIT.org.ph community. Let us all welcome Mr. Henry Hutalle.
Hello, Miss Teen. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, let me share my screen. My main topic is about intelligent automations. We'll talk about industry trends, key use case, and learned lessons after implementing RPAs. Before that, I'll talk about myself. So, as mentioned, I have a 15 years of professional experience as a vendor and employee, and these are the highlights of my career. And my notable projects related to our topic are digital marketing, customer intelligence, machine learning, robotics process automation, and business process automation. So as for my company, I work for SAS Philippines, and SAS is a leader in advanced analytics. And my organization, I am a board of director of PhilIT.org. So you can see yung aming Facebook page. So I hope you can like it after this session. Let me talk about PhilIT organization first. So PhilIT organization, we do provide seminars to schools and colleges. So as you can see on the left side, you'd be able to see the schools that we've visited. And on the right side are our current organization key partnerships. And since 2016, PhilIT has been bringing NASA Space Apps Challenge to the Philippines. And one of our members, siya po talaga yung tumataguyod ng pagtakbo ng event or hackathon. Regarding SAS, as a disclaimer, SAS is not an RPA vendor. And SAS and RPA are two pieces of the same puzzle. So when we talk about intelligent automation, that means RPA plus SAS. So at this point, I'm not inclined to define what's RPA anymore. But what's important is that later we will know what intelligent automation is. Okay. So first, let me talk about the industry trends. So according to IDC, regulatory compliance is the highest priority area globally, creating social and governance trust in the marketplace. So when we say AML, it's anti-money laundering. So when we say anti-money laundering, ano-ano yung mga activities ba yung can trigger money laundering? So for example, let's talk about a movie. Kung sino nakaka-remember kay Al Capone. So sa US, Al Capone was a gangster and marami siyang illegal activities. However, hindi siya mapakulong-kulong ng US. Now, naghanap si US sa kanya ng may kakaso kasi walang gustong maging witness sa mga crimes. So, what US did was to look at the money trail. Now, from those money trail, dun nila ma-correlate yung illegal activities as to where Al Capone was getting his money. So, Al Capone was actually money laundering. And in actual sense, yung sabi nila, yung mga pera doon na may mga blood, dinuhugasan mismo, nilolaundry. Kaya tawag doon was anti-money laundering. Now, in our present scenario, anti-money laundering is a very, very big industry all over the world. As you can see, 3% of the whole global gross domestic product is affected by money laundering. So, ano ibig sabihin nito? So, money coming from illegal activities, pinapasok nila sa regular currency. So, on the social impact sense, if people are doing illegal things tapos dinadala nila yung pera sa ibang bansa kasi doon sila nakatira, magkakaroon ng impact ito doon sa economy ng specific country. Now, what can we do about it? No. So we have solutions to help banks or regulatory government agency to counter money laundering. And that solution is anti-money laundering solution. And if you can imagine, you could have hundreds and millions of transactions a day, both legal and illegal transactions in the banks. It's the duty of the bank to screen ano doon sa mga transactions na yon ang possibly ginagamit ang bank nila for illegal activities. That's why they're using AML to track those activities or to track those transactions. Now, what RPA is doing, even in the Philippines and other countries, is that RPA's help in screening the name. So, example na lang natin, classic example would be potentially Osama bin Laden. Maraming Osama ang name sa buong mundo. Ang ginagawa nito is sinesearch nila yung name and then it can do adverse media search, meaning hahanapin looking for negative name search and then look at the transactions. Now, sabihin natin, yes, this can be done by a person. However, if you have 100 million transactions and the bank can only employ a handful of resources, then mas marami pang transactions ang hindi natin na monitor. So, what banks are doing is that they're using robotics process automation to help them screen the people transacting to their banks. Okay. And how can AI help in monitoring these transactions? So AI can actually provide the risk score, meaning, for example, you have this transaction from a country where it has been red tagged and a person who's not in the system. So what AI can do is it can help the bank provide judgment whether this specific transaction can be subjected for investigation or should be okay for processing of their for the banking system. So narinig na natin sa Philippines, narinig na natin yung kaso natin, I think it was with Cambodia, yung scam, na how come yung malaking transaction was authorized, di ba? So those are the transactions that RPA and AI can really help. Because si AI, hindi mo siya pwedeng basta-basta naling gawing bias like kakilala ko to, well, okay siyang palampasin yung transaction. However, si AI can help provide objective seeking of patterns to specific people, to specific transaction na nagte-take place on the banking space. Okay? That's for banking. Now, moving to insurance, what's happening in insurance really is there's a new way of thinking in insurance. Ito tinatawag nila na InsurTech integration. So what does InsurTech do? Okay. So InsurTech provides capabilities not seen before in usual handling of insurance claims. So take for example, we have this project in other country wherein kung nabangga yung kotse mo, ang kailangan lang gawin ng nabangga is to take a picture sa buong kotse and then after that, yung AI na mismo yung magsasabi kung eto ba is subject for kasa or yung sa shop and then magkano yung budget na iaalat sa kanya. So we are at that point in InsurTech space wherein some things that's being done by people is really taken into consideration by our AIs to have an objective look on the specific claim. Okay. So IDC predicts again that by the end of 2026, 60% of insurers worldwide will have integrated products and services. Okay. So, what's important dito is yung claims natin kasi it's very difficult to look at claims na fraudulent and not fraudulent. Kasi the guys investigating will only look at papers, will look only at whatever is submitted to them para malaman if good or not good yung claims. So even with sports, so we have this scenario wherein people are claiming different injuries, no? But it turns out when with further investigation of AI, the AI can pinpoint which ones are really for their processing and which ones can be tagged as fraud. And with the help of RPA, all the repetitive tasks of like handling emails, looking at the stuff wherein the provided documents are legit or not, this can be verified by both RPA and AI so that it can help the insurance companies look into the claims processing of the process. And it not only provides trust in the system, but it gives better customer satisfaction with the type of engagement that they can provide. So as you can see here, the other items from insurance in the trends are intelligent automation and personalization. So for the personalization, it's more about giving the specific offer for the specific kind of person with their specific activities in life. So later, in our use case, we would be able to see that. Okay. So before I move to the next item, which is a use case in intelligent automation, may I know from the chat room, have you experienced wherein you were in a hospital and then it took you so long to wait for your documents? Kasi people are still encoding your bills. They're waiting for the consolidated report. Can you press 1 sa chat box? So those are that's just a classic example wherein we can say that there's always a possibility wherein we can optimize things, no? So because it's repetitive task, meaning lahat naman ng pumapasok ng pasyente, normal na magkaroon ng mga pinapagawa, binibili, and may services rendered. So these things can be optimized using technology. Let's move to the next topic, which is the key use case. This is a classic example of how RPA works. So you have emails and you have tickets logged in the application and they are sent to servers. And then we have automations to look at the emails and look for keywords so that it can be categorized into different items. It can be claims, it can be requests, it can be a request for sponsorship. And then once they are categorized, then the recipients are identified and then sent for processing. So suppose you have this system, it just helps the marketing do more on their sponsorships to qualify. And then if you're in the insurance company, then most likely it will address yung mga emails na sinasabi natin, normal complaints ng ating customers wherein they say, na-email ko na po to last week sa ganitong tao, bakit hindi nyo po siya nababasa, bakit nyo po hinihingi sa akin ulit yung mga details. And I experienced this claiming for my father's retirement benefit. So, bumili siya ng insurance, and then ako naman, 2 months kong prinasa yung insurance niya, and sa 2 months na yon, karamihan ng ginawa ko, magpadala lang ng document twice or thrice at a time. So, in every follow-up, meaning sa document, imagine if this can be done by an RPA automation, and then supported by your intelligence, supported by an AI that can help on the decisioning. Okay, so with this example, we can then extend our use case. Okay, what are the use cases in machine learning and so what are the use cases in machine learning and artificial intelligence? There's response modeling. cross-selling, churn prediction, customer segmentation, fraud detection, credit scoring. So, let me talk about response modeling. So, sino dito yung hindi pa nakakatanggap ng offer mula sa Globe at Smart? Meaning, sasabihin ka niya na mag-load ka na, mag-top up ka ng 10 pesos. Okay? So, behind that offer from Globe and Smart, there's a technology behind it asking you to reply to their marketing campaign. Suppose, after they send a marketing campaign, nag-top up ka nga ng 10 pesos para makapag-text or para ma-extend yung promo na kinuha mo, then that's part of a response modeling. Now, what happens if hindi ka nag-respond doon sa offer nila? What will happen is that there's another logic in response modeling wherein if hindi ka nag-respond sa ganitong offer na mag-load ng 10 pesos, baka hindi ka bumili ng load to text, baka mas interested ka on data. Kasi yung gamit mo, after many texts, madalas ka na mag-Facebook. So, that can be an offer. So, similarly, we can have an example of churn. Kung hindi ka naman naglo-load for 3 months, then most likely, based on their churn prediction, in the next 2 months, posibleng maputol na yung SIM, and nasa ibang network ka na. So what they will do is they will provide you a different offer, which is cross-selling and upselling again. So given that, how can we extend this example into an intelligent automation? So dagdagan natin yung proseso ng claims. So let's do claims as an example. So suppose you've sent emails, documents, pictures, and then we can have an initial assessment of the artificial intelligence model. Okay? So we can look at risk score, meaning based on when insurance claims are being processed, they look at how risky yung activity mo for them to pay for that type of claim. So take for example, nag-drive ka, lasing, nabangga ka. What's the risk score for that? So mas mataas na risk score, meaning mas negative for you. So kung nag-claim ka and then drunk ka, most likely hindi ka ma-approve or mababa. So that's one. Second, what is fraud score? Suppose this person is known to file a lot of claims, then most likely they will run a fraud score to you kasi magtataka sila, how come from the last 5 months, nag-file ka ng 3 claims? And all of those claims were sent to a specific hospital, to a specific doctor, then most likely a fraud model would be run onto you. Okay? And then, move into investigation and claims handling. So, when these people look at your papers, meron ka ng score kaagad, hindi pa nila nakikita. So, what happens to the process? Mas mapapabilis na ngayon kasi meron ng initial na tumingin on your papers objectively. And then, once they are assessed manually, then that's the time wherein customer feedback would be formed. So, ano yung pwedeng ma-form sa kanya? Suppose nag-claim ka ng health insurance and then out siya sa yung bracket. Let's say, gusto mo magpa-nose lift. Pero wala yung nose lift doon sa pwede mong i-claim na hospitalization. Then, most likely, the system will ask you to ask for an upgrade. This is a potential for an upgrade. Titingnan ng system yan. Similarly, if hindi satisfied yung person based on the initial discussions here in the claims handling, possible for churn ba siya? Meaning, lilipat ba siya ng insurance? Hindi na ba siya magbabayad? So it's one of those things. Now, churn is big kapag company ang pinag-uusapan natin, not just one person. So most companies insure their employees. Now, if there are a lot of complaints coming from that company, then a churn model should have been run to all those claims, and then it can be scored as well if potentially mag-churn. Now, after doing that, here comes the decision making. So if the decision was hindi siya claimable, then the AI will provide the next best action. So para saan yung next best action? So in marketing, if you can't provide what's needed, then you provide what's the nearest that you can give them. Okay? So it can be an offer, an upsell. For example natin kanina na merong computer vision on the car, they can send you to a specific body shop na accredited nila. Yan. Or sometimes they can tell you the next best action was to send you for hospitalization instead of a cash claim. Now, so after all of these are done, that's the time wherein the recipient, the identified recipient will be emailed again for the processing of the whole claims. Now, imagine if lahat ng ito is manual. And how many investigators should look at the fraud entity of that claim? Or imagine if as an owner of a car, sabihin natin na ang laki ng damage ko, bakit 5,000 lang yung i-allow mo sa akin? No? So parating merong contention. So with the objective analysis on specific items, then the whole process would be it's not seamless, but we can say there's integrity on the system kasi lahat ng decisions na lalabas is not just fast, but will have credibility looking into those things. Now, when we say claims, we also have these on the government side, meron siyang regulatory body who looks at claims. Kasi kung tayo may binibili na hindi natin gusto, may DTI tayo, di ba, na pwedeng lapitan. Similarly, for insurance companies, there are regulating bodies. And not just them, but even banks. So when banks and insurance companies or financial institutions have specific machine learning models that's being implemented, the regulators usually ask them na bakit ganito yung way ng pag-compute mo ng pagbayad sa kanila. So it's going to be very transparent when regulators take a look at these companies who does machine learning. So this is just one example of an intelligent automation wherein the strength of RPA and artificial intelligence is being used in the whole process, and it's being operationalized. Meaning, when we say operationalized in technical terms, it's really lesser human intervention from end to end, and people intervene on decision making. Because not all of the decisions of the artificial intelligence can be 100% accurate. But what it does, it helps the people in management have the tools in decision making when they're making decisions on processes and approving items. Now that we've learned this, I think I'd be sharing with you what are the lessons learned after implementing RPA. So I was able to work with open before Pega Systems kasi was open span, so I used to I was able to get a certification in as an open span developer, and I was able to work with BPA Automate. So si BPA Automate is more on process automation. Just recently, while I was making this presentation, I encountered two items. And their reference was Forrester. So Forrester is a research and advisory company in the US. And they are a trusted company. Ginigage nila ngayon kung, for example, for a specific product, they have this Forrester wave kung saan titingnan nila kung a specific solution is a leader in that particular category. For example, data management. So lahat ng companies na merong data management or RPA, ginigrade nila doon kung gaano kagaling or kaganda based on customer satisfaction and functionality. So because they do surveys. Forrester said that RPA can be flattened next year. So what can we learn from this? First, we look at the first write-up. So they're saying na it's a simple fix and are looking for complex ways of automating business processes. And for the TechCrunch Tech Target yung una, ito pangalawa TechCrunch, RPA has always felt like an interim automation solution. To deal with the second statement, we almost know what kind of automation is being done. Most likely, it's screen screening. Because we used to do this, yung team namin, we used to do this from the old COBOL applications. Nilalagay namin siya sa web entities ng aming company. So, if you could imagine, hindi mo na basta-basta makuha yung database noon kasi sa COBOL siya, and ilalagay mo siya dito sa kabilang side, which is the modern side on cloud web. So I think ito yung nakikita nung and right now ito yung nagiging interim solution nila. So what can be done as a lesson learned to our RPA projects? First, include cognitive abilities. So as mentioned in my example earlier, if we can introduce logic, something like it could provide machine learning, yung machine learning example natin earlier, like fraud scoring, or maybe propensity scoring. So suppose propensity scoring is like someone emailed you asking for products, then most likely that person will have high propensity score if i-score natin yung email niya. Just by looking into the emails of that are sent to a specific company, we will already know what can be done with those emails. So instead of just getting those emails and putting it in another format, it's best if you can provide some logic to that automation. Make it have I think it's natural language processing, wherein NLP, wherein it can read and understand what's written on the text, so that you could segment it further into specific topics. Yan. Next is act upon insights. Okay. Suppose, based on the intelligence or cognitive abilities that we've provided to our automation, it's best for that solution to have a decisioning management. So take for example, for marketing, suppose my example earlier was about SMS, taking offers. So suppose this guy was not taking offers, and most likely the next decision that can be done is to enroll him to a different segment of clients, because every time we do marketing, there's a specific client segment. Now, yung segment na yan can be big spender, uh, small spender, or spender in data, or end spender in SMS. What telcos usually want is, if spender ka ng SMS, they want you to become a spender in data. And if you're already a spender in data, then they would want you to get more products like fiber, like data, whatever canopy DSL na ino-offer nila. So with that, with that decision-making tool, your automation will then help your marketing in a productive sense. Like, this person, we know that he spends and likes to do Facebook, then why not give this offer to him? So those are the things that important in the automation. And lastly, provide governance and traceability. In every marketing and every claims that's being provided to customers, there's always cost implications. And as the technology partners, as IT, it's important that we provide specific governance to our work. Meaning, if ever hindi natin maiwasan minsan na napoprod natin may issue, what's important there in governance is we're able to trace saan jobs may issue, saan calculations may issue. And if we're able to do this, then most of the items that's required to help in running automation and in having projects that has value to our company would be more beneficial and more acceptable to the business. So I think this is my last slide. Thank you everyone for joining. Miss Teen, thank you.